You should keep it refrigerated, keep it cold. If you're going to store something, especially where we live in Rancho Marietta and Amador, it's hot. So don't leave your wine out on the counter. So put your wine in the fridge, use a Capablanca, and you'll use it every day. Been using it for 14 years.
Okay.
So, okay, well, so we have a question about Richard is in the Wunderbar. It's actually the Wunderbar Club.
Wunderbar.
Oh, Wunderbar. Can you guess why we named our clubs the way we did? If you haven't guessed, it has a little bit to do with Scott's background. And
I went to winemaking school in Germany. Also was born there. And so that's why you have these names like Prima. Prima means great in German. And Wunderbar means wonderful or whatever in German. So I think I will have to do a little bit of linguistics with the staff.
Wunderbar, yes.
To get the proper pronunciations, but that's where those names come from.
So this question about Barbera, and we chose the Barbera only when they first joined. Amanda, do you want to jump in about our choice club? Maybe this is a good time to bring up because they wonder if they can have another club or have the club without just always having Barbera.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. So actually, we recently switched all of our wine clubs over to user choice. So what that means is every club member of ours is able to select their own bottles now. So now keep in mind, if you don't update your bottle selections, you will receive a winemaker's choice. So you'll receive whatever Scott and Molly decide to send in the shipment. But there's a few ways that you can update your bottle selections every quarter. So one way is you can, we'll send out an email to you about 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks in advance before your club shipment. And you're just going to, you can simply reply to that email and say, hey, Amanda, instead of those bottles, can you send me these bottles? And I'll go ahead and adjust your bottle selections accordingly. Another way you can do it is actually go to scottharveywines.com. Each one of you has your own wine club member account. So you can actually log in with your username and password. You can go in and select your bottles that way as well. If anyone is unsure about logging in, or maybe they don't know what their username and password is, I did leave my phone number and email in the chat. So feel free to reach out to me and I can assist you with that. Yeah, and then another way is just calling. If you don't like to do anything on the computer, feel free to just pick up the phone and give me a call, and I can help you with making sure you get the right bottles every time.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about the wine.
Okay.
So I'm telling you all this other stuff. This wine that Molly and I put together is 75.2% Zinfandel, 14.8% Barbera, and 10% Syrah. And when Molly and I are blending, we're looking to make a complete experience from beginning to end. And we don't want a wine that has a hole in the middle of it or a flat spot. And so, you know, a good winemaker will say, geez, you know, the base wine is this way. It has a little bit of a flat spot here. I know 2 or 3 barrels of, you know, Barbera or Syrah over in the corner. Let's try and see if that makes the wine complete. And Molly and I'll go through maybe 30 blends to bring this wine together. Then we make up a whole bottle each for each of us, and we take it home. Molly is a great cook, and I love to cook as well. Most winemakers are cooks. Jana and I cook together. And that's kind of how we relax. And she's kind of fun to chase around the kitchen anyway. But so we have that wine that Molly and I made in the lab with dinner. And I rely on Jana's palate. She has a very good palate. Women tend to have better palates than men. And if that wine isn't working with the food, then when I go back to the winery the next day, you know, I'll say, hey, Molly, you know, it didn't work for me. How did it work for you? And then if we're not happy with it, then we start blending again till we get what we want. Most winemakers leave their wine at the winery and they don't take it home. And I think that's a real mistake. But the Griffin Society.
Show the wine we're talking about.
It's this Griffin Society wine, and it's the Zinfandel. So the Griffin Society is at the top end of the blending area. We blend the Griffin Society before we blend the reserves. Before we blend the main wine, which is the Mountain Selection. So we look for the very best barrels of each lot, and we create that Griffin Society wine. And because it's a very small amount, it's only 150 cases. And then we go into the reserve wines, the J&S Reserve, and of course the Toy Barbera is a vineyard designated wine. But then, and then we go into the main wines, which are the Mountain Selection wines. So you're really getting with these Griffin Selection wines, the top end of what the winery is producing.
But so Dave and Colleen noticed that we did change the scale on the back. It's always been old world, new world. And we didn't think that a lot of people understood the differences. So we changed it to elegant and overly jammy. So everybody understands overly jammy. But Scott, do you want to explain elegant?
Elegant means food friendly. You know, it's a complex wine that a lot of things are going on in that works with food. What I call first growth quality or elegant wine is a wine that has a lot of things going on in it. It's multi-dimensional instead of mono-dimensional. So yeah, I want flavors to, excuse me, to be hitting me, you know, one here, one here, one here, you know, as you're tasting and smelling the wine. And that's what Molly and I look for, is that complexity in creating a complete product.
Well, so when you say a complete product, what kind of varietals are you looking to carry in the middle of the palate?
Well, usually the center palate is best filled by Syrah or Petit Syrah or something that's really rich and has a big skeletal structure, and that's usually Syrah. A lot of times Pinot Noir is very, very delicate and it needs a little bit of Syrah, but it doesn't take too much Syrah to destroy the varietal character of Pinot Noir. So then, you know, you can't use very much of it, but that's what we're looking for.
Hey, Scott, I got a question that Richard asked, and I get it in the tasting room all the time, and that is, how do you define your reserve wine? J&S Reserve.
It's $10 more than the regular.
11. 11 more.
Perfect answer.
The reserve wines are, you know, like I said, when we're blending, we make each level, we make the first one, the highest one first and go down. And the reserve is that smaller production, higher quality. A lot of times the reserve wines end up being the same vineyards, and they're grapes that that cost more, that we pay a lot more for.
Right.
And like Vineyard 1869, the grapes are twice the price that most Zinfandel is in the valley.
So, I was going to say, okay. Brian, did you want to show us do you have anything for the Zinfandel, or?
I do. Let's do a little, let's have some fun here. So if everybody will sort of enjoy. We'll departure into a little bit of a PowerPoint because I do have this screen share with Scott that I love to show. So this is classic Scott Harvey right here. This is, and you know, it should have been shown on Valentine's Day because that is almost a heart, Scott. Yeah. Nice job. Well done.
Oh yeah.
This is pretty typical of what we, our wine club people that are here. I realize a lot of you aren't here to experience it, so we'd like to bring you as close to the vineyard as we can and have you experience that sense of place that Scott Harvey wines represent. But Jen asked me to talk a little bit about wine and food, so we're gonna do a little.
First off, you need to explain what we're doing in that picture.
Well, you explain. I'm not there. You are.
Yeah, we were blessing the harvest. That was just before harvest, and every year you have a priest or a rabbi or somebody to bless the vintage, and everybody gets a little bit of wine in their glass, and then we all throw it on the grapes that are going to be harvested that year. So that's the blessing of the harvest that was going on there.
Yeah, I've been through that a few times. It seems like we basically used sparkling wine and we exploded it over the bins.
Yeah.
Same process.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to talk quick, and we're not going to bore you with a bunch of stuff because, as everybody knows, I don't believe in making rules. I don't believe that wine and food should be on a pedestal. I think all of you know that wine and food is a wonderful combination, and that all of your journeys should be your own. And as you cook, and Scott and everybody that's cook, I am a cook as well. I just happen to have a degree from Escoffier in Paris. Truth is, I have the same criteria as everybody else. Enjoy, be with friends. It's all the same. So there are some basic concepts that all of us use. Scott, all of us in the industry understand some of the alchemy that occurs. And so we're going to keep it to 3 simple things. And so it's acid versus fat. So the question is, why is wine so good with food? Well, because we love food and we love wine. That's a pretty obvious answer. But the true chemistry and alchemy of the issue is acid versus fats. And so we look to our wine to create the acid and tannin in your palate. And Scott constantly talks, and those of you who have heard this, you're going to hear it again for the first time. The wine creates that first bite experience over and over. So if you're eating food with wine, there's going to be some level of fats depending upon the food that you have. There's lots of fats. There's obviously animal fats, butter fats. At the end here, we have vegetable fats, but I noticed olive oil's up there. That's actually a fruit. So then there's fruit fat as well. Avocados have tremendous oil. So we look at creating a cleansing experience on the palate. We used to show a picture of your palate, but it looked like a sea anemone and it scared people. So we're not showing it today.
We still show it.
Do you? Yeah, well, you know, so bottom line is you know, what we look for is having the experience, and I want everybody to have that same experience, is get involved in seeing when you're eating, pick whatever you want, drink whatever you want, but look at how the wine changes with the food that you're eating. And one of the great explorations, one of the great journeys is when you have food in play, take a look and see what flavor profiles have developed and are there that weren't there without the food. And so as the fats cover the palate and then the wine goes over the palate, cleanses the palate, you'll notice that there's all these additional layers of flavors that are coming from the wine. So we all believe that wine is meant with food and food is meant to be consumed with wine. It's a natural balance. So for the first wine, which was the Zinfandel, it was an easy choice for me. I went right after we have a local vineyard right around the corner from Scott's Winery called Sleeper Ranch. And he produces Zinfandel and grows Zinfandel. And he also raises lamb. And these lamb, they raise them so that the lamb are sort of sort of an organic approach to vineyard management. These lamb run up and down the vineyard and eat between the vineyards, and that's their purpose in life. And we get to enjoy them and eat them, which sounds harsh, but that's the truth. And so for me, the perfect pairing for this was a rack of lamb with a blackberry infused stock, which the blackberry note really keys into the 18 Society Zinfandel. This wine is exquisite. Scott did produce something that's different than it is with the Reserve. It's also different than anything else. And I think it just really represents this great component. Also, I might make a point, if you're a lamb lover and you love lamb, try to focus on, this is about a food source and a lamb source and a grape source that are all together. So if you look at the great cuisines of the world, they tend to drink locally and they eat locally. And so we're lucky enough in Amador that we get to do this. That was my choice for the Zin.
Looks yummy. So, okay, so we're going to move on, we're going to move on to the Barbera, the toy Barbera next. But in the meantime, we have one more Zinfandel question, and that is going to be how this is going to be for a big prize. If anybody can do this, you're going to have to speak it instead of writing it on chat. But we've been doing a lot of virtual tastings like this with people all over the country, a lot of corporations, people that want to have family birthday parties together from people all over, and so we'd love to have you guys involved in that. So, and we also do. Chef Brian puts together a wonderful cheese plate that we ship along with the wine, or in addition to the wine. And so we are going to, the person that can come up with the answer to this next question will get a virtual tasting with a cheese plate. So the question is, who can pronounce the original name of Zinfandel from Croatia?
Do they have to pronounce it over the speaker?
Over the speaker. It's hard to pronounce it over the chat.
Yeah, you just type it out.
I forgot.
It's not Sangiovese.
No.
It's not Sangiovese.
I'll stay out of this, considering I'm Croatian. So.
Oh, really? Who's that?
Really?
Oh, Brett?
I'm just kidding. I'm not.
There is a very large Croatian population in Amador County.
No
answers. Okay, well, we'll give you another chance to get that virtual cheese plate and virtual.
It's a very long name.
I purposefully avoid trying to pronounce it because there's just too many consonants in a row for me to say it with any success.
Well, and you can see why the name was changed. When Zinfandel exported or immigrated to southern Italy, the Italians decided to call it Primitivo. And when it came to America, we decided to call it Zinfandel. The actual name is Srilani Kostolansky. And I can see why they decided they didn't want to use that name to developing a marketing campaign for a grape variety. It's the same thing with Petite Syrah. The real name of Petite Syrah is Duruf. And I think when whoever brought Petit Syrah over from the Rhone said, we can't sell wine called Duruf. So they called it the Little Syrah, Petit Syrah. But that's how things change as things move along. Trelane Kastelanski almost died out in Croatia and on the Dalmatian coast. And it is now the parent of the main variety that's produced in Croatia called Mali Plavic, or depending on where you are, it's called Mali Plavic or Plavic Mali. And it is one of the parents of that variety, which produces the main red wine now coming out of Dubrovnik and Split and the Croatian coast.
See how that just rolls off your tongue now? I mean, it took you a long time to get practice that.
I like to add vowels in between my consonants. I looked it up and there's no vowels for like 4 or 5 letters. So.
Exactly. It's so that everybody, that's Brett. He's our tasting room manager out in the Shenandoah Valley. And Brett, I have the same issue. It's too many consonants in a row, so I just don't try.
Yeah, it sounds like you're just making stuff up at the point when you're pronouncing it. Yeah.
That's funny. So, one more question before we move on to Barbera, that Barb asked, the percentage of varietals used in the Zins change as you move from the Griffin to Reserve to Mountain Select?
Yeah, it always changes depending on what creates the best wine. So we use our best barrels of wine to create the Griffin Society, and then we move to the Reserves, and then we move to the Red Label and are the Mountain Selection. So in each case, though, we want to create a complete wine. So what we're using as the base, we have to work with. Sometimes we don't touch it. It's fine, just like it is. But other times, you know, Molly and I sit there in the lab and say, let's try adding a little of this or a little bit of that, depending on what we have left to work with as we move through the wines.
I know when we were working on this Griffin Society Zin, we liked kind of the richness and the boldness that this wine had. And then realized it needed some brightness. It needed some bright acidity to balance out some of that richness. And that's why we went with Barbera for making that blend. And we do have some legal obligations as far as how much we can blend. So we have to play within a very specific percentage of what we are allowed to add to a wine to still call it a varietal.
Molly, is that across the board? I know Napa or Cabernet has, what is it, 75 or is it 75%?
It is, if you are in a political appellation, which is counties, then it's 75%. If you are in AVAs, if you are in designated viticultural areas, that number changes, I think goes up to 85%.
Or it could be based on whatever the AVA is mandating it to be. Is that possible?
For the most part, it's coming directly from the TTB. So that's something that's done on a federal level, not necessarily on a regional level. Yeah.
And vintage is the same way. If you're labeling your wine Napa County, then it has to be 85% of the vintage that you put on the bottle. If you're labeling your wine Napa Valley, then it has to be 95% of that vintage. So Molly and I work within these rules as we're making these blends. Or at least we make sure it looks that way on the paperwork that the feds get.
Wait, are we recording this?
It's being recorded.
Yep.
One of the first things you teach a a new apprentice in the winery is that all records are kept in pencil.
Mm-hmm. Everything's done in pencil. So I see a question on here. Dave and Colleen will answer that in just a second, but I think we want to move on to our second wine, talk a little bit about that, and then we'll hop back into that AVA question. So our second wine for the night is the Toy Barbera, correct? Our 2018 Toy Barbera.
Do you have the spec sheet, or?
I do not have the.
Let me give the specs, and then you can talk about the wine.
Okay.
Brenda was just asking for those spec sheets today.
Well, we have the Toy Barbera. We don't have the other two. I have to draw them up. Alcohol is 15.7. pH is 3.44. Residual sugar is dry. We produce 312 cases. It is 100% Manby Vineyard. Oh, wait.
It should be Toy Vineyard. Yeah.
It should be Toy. I have the wrong spec sheet. I have the J&S reverse spec sheet. Okay, I have no idea. Obviously, if it's vineyard designated, it has to be Toy. It has to be 95% from that vineyard. So we know it's 95% Toy. I can go get the lab sheet. And,
it's all right. I know that the Toy Vineyard for us is always a really special vineyard because it acts very much like a Pinot Noir vineyard. When we bring those grapes in, it's this very finicky lot of wine that will go kind of through this roller coaster of aging, where we'll go and taste it right after fermentation's done, and it will be funky and weird, and we think, who knows what this is going to end up looking like, and we're just going to let it ride. And then we'll come back and taste it in a couple of months, and all of a sudden it's hitting this peak of just this beautiful fruit comes out. Some really pretty floral notes can show up out of this vineyard. And then it just kind of does that through the course of its aging in barrel. And it's one of the fun things as a winemaker to see is how a wine changes over time. And this one changes a lot. And then we get to a point where we're ready to bottle it, and it turns into what showed up for a lot of you on your doorstep of just this really pretty Barbera, a very unique Barbera for this area. It's this tiny little pocket valley up on the way to Fiddletown. So it's, it's kind of in an isolated area and just turns into this really beautiful wine. I know Scott talks about it very much like a Pinot Noir.
Yeah, they always say good Pinot Noir winemakers make good spouses because it requires a lot of patience. One day you'll taste the wine and you'll go, oh God, I'm gonna dump it all down the drain, And then 3 months later you taste it and you go, oh geez, what happened? And that's what, usually Barbera isn't that way, like Pinot's like that all the time. But this vineyard does that. It has that Pinot Noir type of development cycle that you wouldn't expect from an Amador County vineyard, but it really comes around, and it's just turns into a beautiful wine. It sits on a steep hillside looking west and south, and from that hillside you look straight across the Sacramento Valley through what would be Galt, I think, down in the valley, and right at Mount Diablo. So you can, on a clear day, you can see from that vineyard that Mount Diablo. So what it gets is the delta breezes that come through the delta and then hit the mountain range. It just gets the full blast of those delta breezes.
Great. So we have another little question for you, and well, Scott, you might want to mention why it's so great. Barbera is so great in this area.
Makes good wine.
It makes good wine.
Barbera originates from the Piedmonte region in Italy. And that region geologically is almost identical to where we're at here in Amador. We are in the foothills of a young, fast-growing granite mountain range. So we have a lot of decomposed granite soils. And in the Piedmonte, that's the foothills of the Alps. And here it's the Sierra Nevadas. What changes the most is actually the climate, where in Piedmonte, they get the fog. They're right there on the ocean, so they get that ocean fog. And Nebbiolo, which is the primary grape of that region, is named after that fog. And so Barbera there tends to be a little leaner, a little bit crisper, and originally was produced more as kind of their secondary wine, their table wine, their everyday wine. It wasn't anything special. But Barbera is a sun-loving varietal. And so when we moved it here out into Amador, and any of you that have been out here in the spring and summer know that if we get a ton of sun, we get a ton of heat in late spring and summertime, and the Barbera flourishes out here. And so you end up with this beautiful, bright, still that nice crisp acidity, but you get the full richness of Barbera that you don't necessarily get out of the Piedmonte. And I think where Jana was going with this question is there are two areas of Piedmonte that are known for producing Barbera. And our question is if you can name both of those regions within the Piedmonte that are known for Barbera. And the first one in the chat wins a prize. Jana, what are they playing for this round?
We'll play for some Gouda wine chips. And this is something Chef Brian has found, and they're really unique. They're like little potato chips, but they are with the cheese flavor, and they're all about wine. They're made for wine.
Very different.
Well,
if I might add, Molly, you sound a lot like Wink Martindale. You sound like a perfect game show host.
Hey, I've had a lot of experience. I have participated in 2 game shows, national.
I want to tell everybody that Molly's been on Jeopardy. Everybody should know that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Hiring Molly.
Oop.
What was that?
Jeopardy's looking for a new host.
I know. Well, but that would mean I'd have to leave here, and I don't want to do that.
No, we don't want that to happen either.
No.
So let's see. So we're still waiting to see.
Half of one is right.
Yeah, we got one of the regions.
No.
Oh, interesting. All these questions are
The other name is also a girl's name.
Well, no.
Yeah,
Not a popular girl's name. But
Well, it is nice.
I want to name our next cat. No. Well, that is a good name. The Montferrat. Does that work? Montferrat.
I don't think so.
I mean, that's where we were.
Montferrat's an area of the Piemonte, just like Barolo.
Think of it as a bubbles. If you think of Italian bubbles, that would help you as a clue, right, Scott?
Well, but that one, they already got that one.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, Asti Spumante.
Oh, yeah, you got that
It's
one.
already there. Barolo's another region, but in a style. But the other is Alba, A-L-B-A.
So yeah, those are the 2 main ones, Asti and Alba. And so we had one right, the Asti, but no Alba came up.
Well, that's who wins the prize then.
It's a winner.
There's Christy. She just came up with them. Just a little late.
I was just actually I wasn't participating. I just wanted to kind of mention it's Barbera Asti and Barbera Alba, just for people to know the names.
Well, Christy, this is a perfect time to introduce you. And so some of you are already very familiar with our app, our Pair Anything app. And Christy wants to do a little demonstration and tell you, for those of you that aren't familiar with it, all the great things.
Super. Well, it's nice to see a lot of friendly faces. Some may have seen a show and tell of the Pair Anything app. And actually some we've also interacted with in our monthly trivia, which we hope to start up again. It's a great opportunity for wine club members to get an extension of the Scott Harvey wine experience through this pioneering app. You could access it for more information on the Scott Harvey website. And you can actually just quickly go to app.pairanything.com to actually sign up if you haven't done so, or you can reach out to me or even ask Jana and I can help you with that. But essentially, some of the things that we talked about here, you can actually find it on the app for convenience. You can learn all about the wine information. The winemaker's notes are all available for you. And a little bit of kind of just extending what Chef Brian has mentioned is you can get convenient pairing recommendations for the great wines that we were talking about today. And even more so is that if you type in, let's say, Barbera, we can then present you with suggested recipes. So that's kind of fun. It just allows you to stay connected with Scott Harvey and the team here at the comfort of your home, right? And also, if you wanted to shop, we provide a very convenient way of doing that. And what's fun about this is that it's a very evolving app. We've been getting some nice feedback from some of you, and we constantly are updating it. So every couple of weeks, we introduce a new feature. For example, you could share it on social media. You could kind of place a little heart on some of the wines that you like so that you could have a list of your favorite Scott Harvey wines. And just really a way for us to stay connected when we can't physically be at the tasting room in some cases. So I hope you guys get a chance to try it out, and always feel free to reach out with any suggestions. Thank you, Jana.
Thank you, Christy. Okay, so we should go on now to our Tempranillo.
Wait, we haven't done the pairing for.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. So let's get into the second group of pairings, since Christy made a good point. Everybody is out there, wanting to have that experience, and so let me get a full screen here. There we go. All right. So for the second group, we talk about cheese and why is cheese the greatest pairing there is. And quite honestly, I don't think anybody would argue that cheese and wine and cheese is just a wonderful combination. It almost doesn't matter what today we had a photo shoot. And I did a big platter for Gary and Brian and Jana, and there was a mixture of cheeses down, fromage down, and they drank wine, and it just all works. It all works. But I wanted to give everybody a quick summary of the major cheese groups. Fresh, burrata, cream cheese, everybody knows those. If you don't know burrata, that's one you need to check into. Fromage blancs, very similar to creme fraiche. Semi-soft, Fontina, Gouda, Monterey Jack. We use an aged Gouda in our cheese pairings. We think that's a really great cheese to work with. The soft ripening brie, they had one today, Cambozola. Mount Tam's a local cheese. Semi-hard, raclette, Manchego, which by the way is a sheep's milk cheese, and St. George is a combination of a guy that came to California, produces a classic cheese out of Northern California. And then the hard cheese group gets really obvious: Beemster, Dry Jack, and then Blues, Stilton. We all know these cheeses, but the most interesting ones are the wash rinds: the Limburger, the Apois, the Raclette, Stinky Bishop, and Red Hawk. And Red Hawk's one here that comes from Point Reyes. And those are the cheeses that people really struggle with because they stink. They literally stink, but they're a wash rind. But once you get into the paste, we call it paste in the middle. Oh my God, it's just amazing. And I would always say Apois is a Burgundian cheese. If you've ever had a perfect Apois with a great Burgundy, wouldn't be Romani Conti for most of us, but a real good Von Romani, that would be a pairing that you wouldn't ever forget. So for the Barbera, I went to something that was kind of obvious. So those of you, one thing we didn't mention is the Catedrali Society. It's a secret society. We laughed about it earlier. It's something that nobody knows about, but it's a secret society. It's a group of people that have bought the Catedrali wines, and it's a whole nother level. And those of you that want to find out what that's about, please contact Amanda. There's a secret passcode she'll give you. The pairing is the Toy Barbera. So this particular picture shows the Catedrali. We did a virtual tasting where everybody cooked and everybody drank. And I'd love to share that with all of you. It was a great experience. And what we did was spaghetti carbonara. You can't quite see everything there, but there's Reggiano Parmesan, there's eggs, there's rendered bacon, a little garlic, and then of course the Catedrali. But for me, when I did it 2 days ago with the Toy, it was absolutely the same experience. It's the perfect pairing. It really did well. And the Toy just stood up. It's got great acid balance like the Catedrali. And just my favorite choice. Doesn't mean you can't drink it with anything else, but have that and try that.
Wonderful. Okay. That carbonara was delicious. We need to make that again. So,
yeah, and it was fun hearing all the frying pans and stuff falling on the floor in the background. And
it was.
And some of those were ours.
But maybe we can organize a wine club tasting where we all cook. It's really a fun thing.
Yeah, why not?
Well, while we get some Tempranillo in our glasses, let's try and go through a couple of these questions that have popped up in the chat. So the first one that I saw was how many AVAs do our grapes come from?
Not yet.
We make wine from not only different places or different AVAs in California, but also in the US. This year's, this vintage 2021 coming up, our Riesling will actually come from Washington State, from a vineyard that my sister and nephew own. And so we'll be working with that. We've made Riesling also in New York State and in Michigan State. In California, we produce wines from the Scott Harvey label, mainly from Amador, well, all from Amador County, because this is where I come from. I grew up here on the border of the Amador and El Dorado counties. And so my grandfather grew grapes here and so forth. So that's why the Scott Harvey wines are there. But when I met Jana 25 years ago, I was making wine in Napa Valley. That's where I created the Ménage à Trois for Folie à Deux and so forth. And so I developed a whole bunch of growers that I worked with in Napa Valley that I wanted to continue working with. So when we sold that winery, Jan and I took that equity that we had in it and started this winery, and that's where the Scott Harvey Jana Winery labels came from. So all the Napa wines, Lake County, Mendocino County, those all have the Jana label on them instead of the Scott Harvey label. So that's where that comes from.
Let's see, I saw a couple other questions pop up. Let's see. Barb asked about the date that the toy Barbera was harvested. I feel like it's usually kind of towards the end of our Barbera pickings that we pick it. Yeah. It's one of the later Barberas that we pick. So it tends to be towards the very end of harvest. But we'd have to look back in our records to figure out the exact date that we harvested this 2018.
So who planted the first Barbera in Amador, Scott?
You want me to answer that, or you want them to answer it?
No, somebody's asking.
Barbera was originally planted in a university test plot in the Clinton area outside of Jackson back in the 1920s. And, but it was never grown commercially. It was again planted in another university test plot in Amador County in the Shenandoah Valley at the, what was it? I've forgotten the name of the ranch, Furrow Ranch. And, but again, not produced commercially. It wasn't produced commercially until Darrell Cordy of Sacramento, a Sacramento wine merchant, got a new winery that was being built in 1973. The winery where I started working, my first job in a winery was at that winery in 1974. And it's called Montevina, and he got them to plant Barbera on a commercial basis, and that's when we started making Barbera in Amador County. And I've been making from 74. I haven't missed a year where I haven't made Barbera. I think it is the best variety in this region. So,
and an up and coming variety is Tempranillo. So we have a question, and before we get into talking about the Tempranillo, and this one, if you answer it, whoever answers it correctly, if you've been to any of our events here at the house or in the old days, and hopefully it'll be also in the new days. But one of the things everybody loved to do was come down here in the cellar and pick a bottle to open. And so we thought, okay, so the person that whoever wins can guess the answer to this question will have a choice. Scott can do it blindfolded maybe and just pick up.
No,
something.
I'll stand up and you tell me which bottle to touch, and that we'll pull it out, and that's the bottle we'll send you.
Can I play?
It could be great, could be very old, could be brand new, who knows. You can see just above my silver hair, you can see the dusty bottles up above there. So
that's a good choice right there.
That's a real
go for Scott's hairline. Go for Scott's hairline.
You can tell me. I'll move over one, or up or down, and then I'll pull that bottle, and that's what we'll do.
Get employees play.
I know. I want to play.
Dang.
Well, but you guys have the range of the cellar at the. We do our company party at the house here.
That's right.
No, we didn't this year.
Just kidding.
And we just send everybody down, and they try, especially people like Molly, they try to find bottles of their birth year, which there's plenty of them around. So
I've got the empty bottle of that Harbor, the 1990 Harbor Zin.
Oh.
That empty bottle, because I keep thinking about that wine and how good it was.
Well, there's actually more of that in the cellar here.
Well, no,
but
we won't
anyway.
tell you where. So the okay, here's the question. Now that we're going to drink Tempranillo, we know that it is from Spain originally. So what are the two regions that grow the most Tempranillo in Spain?
It's their main wine. Yeah.
That's their main wine. You can play the Jeopardy.
I don't see people looking it up.
Let's see how fast I can Google that.
No, nothing yet. Nothing ever.
You don't have.
Oh, there's one.
Krista got it.
There it is.
That's it. Yeah. Who was that?
Krista.
Ribera del Real in Rioja.
Yeah, Krista.
Well done, Krista.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Okay. Well, now we're gonna get to pick the bottle.
Okay.
And well, good choices from, or good idea, thoughts from some of the others.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So where is she? Krista, we're gonna have to
speak up.
Gonna have to tell Scott where to go.
Yeah, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Are we muted? Oh, Krista.
There we go. I see you. Hello.
Okay. So I'm gonna put my hand on a bottle, and you can tell me go up or down or left or right or whatever.
We can't hear you. Uh-oh, I'm not sure. If you want to put it in the chat, I can help translate.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go up to and over
nice.
One to the right.
Oh, very good, Krista.
Right is this way or this way?
Nope. To my right, which would be maybe, yeah, that one right there.
Nice choice.
Yep.
Oh, darn.
Well,
okay, so this has quite a bit of dust on it. It's a wine from Renwood Winery. It's a winery I named and built. I built it as Santino Winery, but in 1979, and then renamed it Renwood in 1992. It is from the 2000 vintage of DiAgostini brothers, which is there are two DiAgostini families in Amador County. One we called the Wild Bunch, which is these guys, and the other were the Winery Bunch. But anyway, that's what we'll send you. And it's a great Zinfandel. It's a great old vineyard. It's a vineyard that was planted during, it's a good 80-year-old vineyard that been making wine from for years.
Thanks. I'm really looking forward to that.
I bet.
I didn't even know you had that, right?
No, I didn't. But
well, Krista, you'll have to let us know how it is. That is really a precious bottle.
But
congratulations.
Wine's made to drink. So
I will drink it and I will let you know.
And then you'll have to let us know.
Yeah, I will.
Okay, so let's
chat a little bit about
Tempranillo. Huh?
Tempranillo is a great variety that obviously comes from Spain. It's also grown in Portugal. It's called Tinto Ruiz. It's one of the main varieties for port. It's a variety, again, that Daryl Cordy has said we should grow in Amador County. Again, dry, hilly, mountainous kind of terrain. Tempranillo grows on both sides of the Iberian divide. So in Spain, Spain is the Iberian Peninsula, and there's a divide where when the rain falls, either it goes into the Mediterranean or it goes out to the Atlantic. And at this divide point, the side that goes to the Mediterranean is Rioja, and the side that goes to the Atlantic is Ribera del Duero. And the Ribero means river, the river Douro goes all the way through Spain and in through Portugal, and that's where the Douro is. In Portugal it's called Douro. That's where the port comes from. So that's the main variety. It's a variety that's similar to Zinfandel. It has nice bunches, and it has nice flavors that are similar to Zinfandel, but a little bit richer, I think. And in Amador County, we called it Bazalia Vines. And this is how wine names change. I was walking through a vineyard with one of my growers, during harvest, and I was, it was a Zinfandel vineyard, and planted in the early 70s. And I came across this vine. I go, "This isn't Zinfandel." I go, "What's that?" And he goes, "Oh, that's a Bazalia vine." And I, tasted the grapes, and I go, "I have no idea, what's a Bazalia vine?" And they go, "Well, Ralph Bazalia, he's the guy that sold us the plants. And every time we would buy all these Zinfandel cuttings to put in the ground to plant a vineyard, every now and then we'd have one of these weird vines. So we call them Bazalia vines." And I know Ralph Bazalia, he's passed away now, a great old guy, nurseryman. But so in Amador County for the longest time, Tempranillo was called Bazalia Vines. Now, you can't sell a wine called Bazalia. So we keyed out the plant, realized it was Tempranillo, and then now we call it Tempranillo. But for 20 years we called it Bazalia Vine, and that's what this is. So I like to make a toast to Ralph Bazalia because he was a great guy.
Cheers to Ralph.
Yeah.
Cheers to Ralph.
I still know his son, and he comes up and drinks the wine named after his dad.
So Brian, sorry, go ahead.
One of the things I love about Tempranillo is, like Scott said, it's very similar to Zinfandel, and in blind tastings, I've confused the two because they do taste similar. But one of the hallmarks for me of Tempranillo is there's a spiciness to it that comes from the grape. It doesn't matter what kind of oak you put it in. There's a spice note that comes out in almost heat spice, not necessarily, spices, but that I think is just phenomenal. And that's one of those indicators that can push you in the direction of saying, and no, this is Tempranillo.
It has that picante spice.
Yep.
And in being Spanish, it should have a Spanish name for it, like picante. Mm-hmm. And it makes sense. And I think it matches a food that has that high picante or spiciness to it.
Absolutely, Scott, I agree. So I had the pleasure of, when I retired, going to Spain and Portugal for a couple months. And as everybody said, Spain is the new France, and they're right. I got my degree in France, but once I went to Spain, it totally changed the way I looked at everything. And when it came to wine, here I'm a Pinot Noir guy, Chardonnay guy, where I shifted quite quickly to Spanish wines. And I agree that Tempranillo has this spice element. So for me, one of the things that I really loved about this wine was especially this new 2018, since this wine is new and we're still trying to explore its parameters and still kind of getting to know it, is being truly indigenous to Spain. So I chose, I've got a friend in Carmel Valley. Jana got to taste it today. She's tasted it over the month. I've got a friend in Carmel Valley that produced the best olive oil in the award for absolutely the #1 olive oil in the United States. And he produced it in Carmel Valley. So he's a Dean Griggs. He's he made his money in the nursery business. So he's a green thumb. He knows how to grow. And so he's got 4 Tuscan varietals growing in the Carmel Valley. So if you know Carmel and you go into the valley, he lives right next door to Robert Talbot, who's a major wine producer, sold his wine to Gallo recently. So this olive oil, to me, is the perfect pairing with the wine. It has that spicy characteristic. It's a strong olive oil. Really great olive oil, when it's really fresh, is very strong. You have to almost be careful when you drink it. Like if you taste it, it's super strong. So most of us think olive oil we buy at Costco. No, this is olive oil that you buy and you literally have to consume it just as fresh as you can get it. So this is my wonderful pairing. Some olives today. Today I gave everybody a little a jar of olives with this olive oil. This is called Chef's Table Extra Virgin, but this is from Dean Griggs Ranch in Carmel Valley. Perfect pairing with the Tempranillo.
But Brian, I thought that was so interesting where you said that you have what, a teaspoon of it every morning.
Yeah, I drink. Nancy and I both actually believe in trying to be as healthy. I read a book recently on how not to die, and it really changed my life. I think it's a great concept. And one of the things that particular doctor said was having a teaspoon of olive oil every day. It's anti-inflammatory. It's an antioxidant. It goes on and on and on with all the health benefits. And so, but the key to it is it has to be fresh. You can't be buying this old olive oil off the shelf of Safeway.
Huh.
And yes, we do sell it.
Yeah.
So those of you who don't want to die, give us an email and we'll send you some olive oil.
It's against the law to make health claims in the wine business.
That's right. But I noticed that because I drink wine, I've been COVID-free. So I'm going to claim health benefits from the phenolics of red wine.
That's good. Wow. Okay. So is there anything else? I know we've kept everybody a long time. But I know everybody, a lot of people need to run because we thought we would be finished in an hour. So just letting you know, if you guys had fun tonight, we do this a lot with, and we would love to do it with all you and your friends and your family. So that's available to you. So just probably contact me because Jana, it's got Harvey Wines.
Yeah, don't contact me. I'll just drink with you when we have the Zoom event.
and you know, if you want to do food and wine pairing, Brian's here to help, and we have you know, there we go. Christy's putting out there. So thank you, Christy, and yeah, so it's a great benefit for the wine club, and we love to meet your friends and family.
I wanted to put a great shout out to Amanda. What a great addition to the
thank you. Yes.
She has
cheers to Amanda.
Thank you.
Cheers to Amanda. We're all
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Cheers.
Yeah.
So excited to be a part of the team, and I've gotten so many warm welcomes from so many of you members, and thank you guys for just making me feel so welcome, and I'm so excited to be a part of Scott Harvey Wines. So
thank you, Amanda. We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Thrilled to have you. Okay, well, good night. I hope you all enjoyed these new wines, and the ones that are still on its way, you'll be getting them soon. And thank you for being here tonight and joining us.
And I'm glad our internet worked.
You made it through. Yay.
Thank you. Yay.
A lot of fun.
Good night,
Thank you,
everybody.
Texas.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye. Good night.
Adios.
Adios.
Are we still on your hotspot?
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder if we ever